Voicity's project management. The idea of Voicity started actually quite early. A German partner, Comparative Research Network, was thinking about how to integrate the community reporting approach of the British partner People's Voice Media into general context of neighborhood activism. As a previous project, we worked together in an Erasmus Plus bid called Humanities, where the Italian partner Mine Vaganti and the Hungarian Academy of Sciences had been partnered up. And we realized that we have to give neighborhoods not just tools like in gamification, but that we also have to give people a voice. Thus, the project management of Voicities is also following the ideas to give space and voices to the partners and develop for diverse neighborhoods in different cities individual diverse solutions. The idea to implement the community reporting into the normal trainings was part of the decision to use a lot of synergies as well between the partners. Further on, the idea to combine the social research with a kind of bottom-up approach was interesting to see how neighbors can co-create a feeling of diversity and at the same time check with the stakeholders how this diversity is seen from a professional point of view. During the project there was a lot of debates, especially between the social science field and the community reporting approach, as there were a lot of unsureness how they both will represent and might not change or mix up the data. But in the end, the outcome had been actually similar recommendations as formulated by the stories we gathered in local events. In the work package project management, we also took care that we will have regular meetings. We had the kickoff meeting in Budapest, which was basically a moment where both sides, the researchers, the community reporters and the administrative staff could come together. We organized the frame of the project, but we also had the first round of community reporting trainings, which helped both sides to understand what the methodology will be like. In a second meeting in Berlin, we basically went into the consensus events and talked about the design of these events. And we also came up with the first round of policy recommendations and also discussed how the dissemination products like the booklet will look like. In the last step, we are coordinating the different dissemination events on local level and working together with the work package leaders in dissemination on finalizing the booklet and the video of the project.
Community reporting is a storytelling movement that uses digital tools to support people to tell and share their own stories in their own ways. This practice advocates achieving positive change for communities by bringing people's portrayals of lived experience together to influence change from the ground up. Community reporting insight storytelling techniques and co-curation approaches have been used in the Voice Cities project to enable people from diverse neighbourhoods to tell their own stories, gather stories from their peers, and analyse these stories to co-produce a set of findings on what life is really like where they live. As part of the Voice Cities project, we've trained 9 community reporter trainers, over 40 community reporters, and gathered over 110 individual stories from people in the participating cities of Salford, Berlin, Budapest and Sassari. As stated, these have been transformed into analysis reports and edited videos. Some of the key findings that emerged from them were that we should look beyond physical regeneration and look more about creating environments of interactions. So what's important is not just creating nice spaces for people to be, but to create spaces in which people who may not otherwise come in contact with each other can get to know each other and interact, and we should make sure that no one is excluded from these spaces. Another findings is that it's not good enough that a service exists. People must be connected to that service and that support mechanism in a meaningful way. That could come through better signposting, better collaborations between local assets, and a much more integrated approach to looking at people's lives. We also found that when we're looking at strategic interventions, it needs to be much more about bottom-up action. It can't always be top-down. So people must be involved better in decision-making processes. People must be part of the change-making processes. Residents shouldn't have change done to them. Residents should be the change and be part of that process and have a voice in it.
The title of Workstream 2 was Collecting and Comparing Stakeholders' Voices. The overall goal of this research section was to identify the mental and physical spaces of interaction of hyper-diverse communities in the 4 neighborhoods. We studied the appearance of different socio-economic and ethnic groups in public institutions, public spaces, at public hearings and local events. We located popular spaces frequented by socio-economic and ethnic groups and identified spaces for the demarcation of neighborhoods for community reporting and local stakeholder interviews. In this workstream, we employed 2 qualitative research methods, document analysis and semi-structured interviews. Our research teams in the 4 urban areas conducted in-depth document analysis of local and national policy papers, strategic documents and development programs related to social integration, social cohesion, migration, demographic trends in the relevant countries and urban areas. The overall goal of this research section was to describe the way diversity appears in the local and national discourse. Based on the analysis of documents, we mapped the main institutions and places of development. The overall goal of semi-structured interviews was to be able to compare different positions of stakeholders in decision-making processes, horizontally at the local level and across various levels of governance. We studied the presence or lack of representatives of vulnerable socio-economic and ethnic groups in different decision-making bodies, the appearance of a diversity of views in policy decisions, and methods of their inclusion. We organized our interviews around 4 main themes: perceptions of diversity, places of diversity, governance of diversity, and policies of diversity.
Work Package 4. The crossing of the community reporting and stakeholder interviews permitted to establish a list of general statements regarding diversity in the neighborhoods. These statements have been divided into 3 groups according to the fact of they are mainly related to people, for example the main groups of the population, the demographic changes in the areas, and also the interactions between the groups, the general conditions of social inclusion, dialogue between groups, integration, and so on. Place, for example the main areas where diversity is reflected in the place and place-making condition, like places of encounter and dialogue, the linkage between diversity and the physical environment of the neighborhood. Power, for example the forms of management and policy making related to diversity, top-down and bottom-up processes, governance, and the provision of basic public services that are linked to local diversity. The conversation of change events gave floor to the formulation of the first set of recommendations in each city that were revisited and put in a transnational context at the pan-European event. In a last step, the 2 lists of information have been converged. The general statements as challenges and/or assets to be addressed were linked to the specific recommendations. Here, the recommendations and challenges have been also divided according to the main policy fields they might belong to. These policy fields have been identified as follows: housing, urban development, physical and natural environment, education, public services, culture, identity and community development, economic development, public safety, governance. The list of challenges and assets and of the recommendations have been revisited in each city through a second round of community discussion at the consensus event. The methods used at these events were various according to the cities. They permitted the confirmation, precision and slight reshape when needed of the recommendations. In a last step, the results of this entire process are converged into a table where the challenges and assets, just as the main recommendations, are identified in each city and are compared. The table highlights the main fields of action where diversity management can intervene in urban neighborhoods. It also reveals if these fields are concerning rather people, place or power configurations, and it also shows the relevant policy fields these recommendations can be linked at. Based on the table, some common challenges and recommendations can be identified that can be regarded as pan-Europeans. Topics of general importance underlined by all cities are education, sharing knowledge and experience. Schools are visible spaces reflecting diversity levels, either by supporting encounters or segregation. Community building. There is often no integration, rather dialogue. Places, public spaces or places of encounter are needed. They have to be organized, safe, and including all groups. Regard to power, governance with all stakeholders and also all social groups is needed. Conditions for including also the newcomers into the governance system should be ensured. Further on, there are some specific and important topics which are not highlighted by all the cities, such as access to service, housing policies, and public safety. In the last step, these pan-EU recommendations will be linked to different EU policies and formulated as European policy recommendations and will be published in the final handbook of the Voice Cities project.
Mine Vaganti NGO has coordinated the production of a specific project dissemination plan, explaining the strategy, objectives and targets. The dissemination plan has two main objectives: ensuring the highest visibility, diffusion, transferability and sustainability of project results and key activities, raising awareness of the project results and key activities and sensitizing and engaging all the relevant actors. The target groups to be reached are stakeholders at local level, professionals working in the field of education, policy and decision makers at local, regional, national and European level, as well as the general public. Mine Vaganti NGO created different tools in order to achieve the aforementioned objectives. The project website has been created to contain information and details about all events and publications, as well as the main outputs produced in the project. Moreover, 3 promotional bulletins containing detailed information about the project in general and the specific phases were conceived, and they are available on the Voice Cities website. Project social media account on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn have been created, as well as a YouTube channel in which videos representing the variety of diversities of Sassari, Berlin, Budapest and Salford have been uploaded. Community reporting videos which outline the process of community reporting in each local neighborhoods and local interviews of local stakeholders. Mine Vaganti NGO has carried out 3 thematical social media campaigns on the Facebook and Twitter platforms of Voice Cities, with the aim of regularly promoting and disseminating methods, activities and results of the project, in order to achieve a wider visibility and awareness. The topics of the campaigns are the Pan-European Conversation of Change event, the promotion of the booklet and the film developed, the promotion of the final dissemination events organized in each partner's country. The booklet and the film, entitled Voices of Diversity, represent the main outputs of the project. The booklet is structured into 6 chapters, containing stories of lived experience from residents in all partner cities, challenges of diversity based on the report of the Pan-European Conversation of Change and policy recommendations. The film describes the project with its activities and results developed throughout its entire duration by means of narrating voices, pictures and footages.